we made a huge mistake. We realized our floating shelves here are not made to hold books. Yes, we could have someone come and create a bespoke shelf unit, but that can cost thousands of pounds. So we came up with a plan. Let's try it ourselves. We'll get some IKEA Billy bookcases and make them look built-in. It sounded easy enough. This could either be our best idea or the worst one ever. So I'll take you along for the process, and at the end of the video, I'll share with you how much the whole project cost and how long it took as well. And if we managed to actually do the whole thing ourselves. So it started on October 29th. We got our IKEA parcels delivered and we started by building all 3 units. The bookcases we went for are 28 centimeters deep. They're just the standard IKEA Billy bookcases, which are very popular. We got 2 of the 80 centimeter ones and then one 40 centimeter one to go in the middle. After measuring our space, we decided this combo would probably fit the best. We still wanted to have toy storage in here for the kids. We wanted to bring their books down as well. And we also wanted to store our own books at the top. And another goal we had was to mask the aircon unit at the top. So those were the things we had in mind when we built this whole thing. Once we assembled all 3 units, we ordered the wood for the frame. We actually went to B&Q and ordered the wood from there. I started doing some paint tests to see how the paint that I had would work. So I'm in the shed. I've just painted, well, last night I did some primer on this and now I did some paint and it's not good. So for this side, I just used the regular brush. I wanted to see what the finish would be like. And then for the other side, I used the roller like this, foam roller. Yeah, I used this primer, the 123 one by Zinsser, and I think I just read some reviews. So this one is a water-based one. I think I should have used the shellac one. And then this is the paint we're using for the furniture. It's the Ball Pearbeck Stone. It's the paint we have on the walls as well, and I love it. Probably when it dries completely, it will look even better. But it's just, you look really closely, you can see like little speckles of white underneath. So obviously that's not ideal. So mistake number 1, I need to go get a different primer. We got the wood delivered, so we started doing some damage. Can you tell me your words of wisdom?
Do your best and hope the rest.
So we cut off the skirting board where the unit would go, just to obviously make space for it to go all the way to the wall. And we also cut the coving at the top on the ceiling so that we could move it, obviously, and to give the whole unit that kind of built-in look at the end. Hopefully. I feel like once we started doing this, cutting bits in our living room, it started to get real. The damage is done, there's no going back. I also did some new paint tests and I was finally happy with how it was coming out. And a little tip I learned is I kept all the paint brushes and paint rollers because obviously I was painting over a few days and I needed the paint brushes to not dry up, and I also didn't want to have to clean them every single time I did a layer of paint or primer. So keeping them in a Ziploc bag really helped a lot. We only worked on this project a few hours every day because, you know, with jobs and kids running around, it wasn't possible to do like a full weekend just dedicated to this. So it was an hour or 2 here and there when the toddler was napping or when both my kids were in bed. That was kind of our work time on this. So we started cutting a hole for the sockets, and this was mistake number 2. While I was doing the kids' bath time upstairs, my husband thought he would, you know, surprise me so that he would already have the hole cut up. Actually, the measurements were off. So the hole he cut was a bit too high up for the sockets. I came downstairs and I was like, babe, okay, I'll just do it myself. So I thought I'll just swoop in and fix that mistake. Turns out I actually cut it the wrong way as well, just a bit too far on one side. So we just made a mistake. I think we're too tired tonight. Good. This is not good, is it?
I made space for 2.
What did you say?
We'll put them back with sellotape, don't worry. Okay, let's go to sleep, come on.
So if you see this huge hole where the sockets are, that's why. And I think every time I open this cupboard now, I will think of that night and what a good laugh we had about it. And I think it's one of those little memories that will stick with us. We also did a few holes to run light wires throughout, so that was under each of the shelves. And now that we had all the wood, we started building a wood frame around all of the shelves and also all the way up to the top to the ceiling. so that we could build some doors at the top as well. I used wood filler to fill in all of the little holes and that are on all IKEA furniture pieces, just to give it more of that built-in look. I picked white wood filler because I thought that would go really well with it, but after I painted over, it didn't really matter what color it was anyway. So I did the wood filler, and I think you're supposed to wait about 2 hours, and then you can start sanding it and painting or whatever you want to do over. Now the frame was all built. My husband cut a lot of the pieces with just a handsaw. So we added hinges that we also got from IKEA on the frame that we built at the top. And then we added 2 horizontal doors at the top as well. So those 2 horizontal doors are also IKEA and they're from their kitchen range. And we thought this would be a really good way to cover all of that top bit and also have the option to open one of the horizontal doors when we use the aircon. I started painting all of the shelves and doors, and mistake number 3 here is that I should have put the shelves up in the Billy bookcase and then painted them in place, because I think that would have made the process so much easier. And when we did go at the end to put the shelves in place, we actually did chip some tiny bits here and there that I had to then cover up again with paint. So if I were to do this again, I would put all the shelves up and then paint them after. But you know, live and you learn. I feel like we learned a lot through this process. So once the frame was all built, we ordered the MDF, and that took a few days to arrive. So in the meantime, I actually started painting the frame. I am getting a start on sanding these holes that I filled, and I'm also sanding a bit like all of this, the doors up there, and I'm just gonna use some sandpaper for that. Then I'm gonna prime and paint, and I found that works the best. Oh, and I've covered all of the cables for the lights with some cling film, just so that, you know, they don't get any dust in them or paint or anything like that, because obviously that would not be ideal. Had to go and get more primer because I ran out last night. I actually don't have that much more priming to do, but I completely ran out, so needed a new one. I've got to say, like, spending Saturday nights, hours of sanding and doing the little like prime work makes you question your life choices. I feel like it's coming along nicely, so I'm just gonna finish with the priming. I'm gonna start sanding a bit more, and then we're gonna start painting the actual frame as well. So fingers crossed it looks okay. The best painting technique that I found after a lot of trial and error was I did some light sanding on the surface, because usually it's slightly shiny or it's got already some sort of paint on top. Just some light sanding. Then I did primer. After a coat of primer, I would wait 24 hours. And so the next day I would just do a light sanding again over the primer. I don't know if it's actually needed, but I really wanted to make sure that the paint would stick really well. After the light sand, I did a coat of paint, wait 4 hours, and then a second coat of paint. The paint that we ended up using was Ferro and Bowl. The shade is Purbeck Stone, and we picked the finish Dad Flat, which is a very chalky matte finish, but it's supposed to be really durable, and also it matches the walls that we have in our living room. That's the exact same shade. So we wanted to make the whole thing look like it's built in, like it's part of the wall. Now that the paint was all dry, we added the light strips on the furniture. Our MDF finally got delivered. It took a bit of time for us to wait for that. Now that we had all the MDF, we just used my little map that I created. So we used the MDF pieces to create a smooth finish all over. So to cover all the gaps in between the bookcases, the side of the bookcase, the top bits around the horizontal doors, just basically everything around the bookcases. Next up, I primed the MDF and all the rest of the frame. So last night I did a coat of primer all over the MDF. I need to do a bit of wood filling in certain like joints that are like right there. So I'm gonna do that now, and then a bit later I'm gonna start painting as well. And I just basically finished painting all of the frame and everything around it. And then we added the doors, took a step back and admired our finished product. The whole process took about 2 weeks from start to finish. We did have a few days of waiting in between for parcels to arrive. And again, we only did a few hours here and there around the kids. As far as the cost, the whole project cost us about £857. So for 2 complete amateurs when it comes to home DIY, I think we actually didn't do too bad of a job.